Eugene Berryman, let me read this quote for you guys. Ethan's got it up on the screen here. Israel Adesanya's head coach, Eugene Berryman, says Khamzat Chimaera is a rising star, but he's done literally nothing at middleweight. Now I want to ask you guys, does it matter? A lot of times in the sport, yeah, of course, it sure does matter. I mean, we couldn't get Chimaev a title fight at 170 pounds where he was ranked and beating ranked guys. We could not get him a title fight there. I mean, it was asked about. Dana said no. This is when Kamaru Usman was still the champion, so I realized that I'm going back, but it was when Kamaru Usman was going to fight Colby Covington, so I'm going back really far, but I'm going to Madison Square Garden. And it was this year. That's not that long ago. But Dana completely dismissed it, if you'll remember. He laughed. He said he's 4 fights away. 4 fights away, talking about Chimaev, for being in there with Kamaru Usman, and Dana went even further. He's putting Kamaru over. This is the #1 fighter in the world, pound for pound. Khamzat Chimaev is a 24-year-old kid. He's done it 4 times. I'm not putting him in there with Usman. Now, save that thought. It looks like we moved on and we're in a different time. But we couldn't get him a title fight then. So for Eugene Berryman to come out and talk about middleweight, if you couldn't get a title fight at 170 when that's your weight class where you're ranked, I mean, I think that I'm making Eugene Berryman's point. I'm trying, and I'm sure that I'm very close. Does it matter? I mean, I know that that's a built-in narrative, and I know that that's going to work. I know that that goes far with people, but I don't see very many times in life that that works out. I go back in this sport in recent memory. Islam Makhachev does not belong in there with Charles Oliveira. He does not deserve it. He does not even qualify for a #1 contendership, and here's the reasons why. And it had to do with ranked opponents. It had to do with guys in the top 10, had to do with opponents within the top 5. I believe, if I remember this correctly, there was 1 opponent from the top 10. There was 0 opponents from the top 5. He doesn't belong in there. Well, it turns out he did. He won every minute of the fight. He won the fight as a whole. He won the rounds that were completed. He won the striking element, the wrestling element, the submission element. I'm just sharing with you, right? Like, your theory didn't hold up. Georges St. Pierre had never fought at middleweight. Ever. Didn't want to, talked about it, even had a little bit of the Jon Jones factor to him, where, hey, I'm not big enough. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to take some time. Well, he did take some time, and he did come and do it. He's now currently only 1-0 at middleweight. Oh, should I mention, he's also a former middleweight champion of the world. It was the world title fight, where George did not lose a round. So, I mean, I know that we hear these things about the experience. I just don't know when it's true. I could be off base here, but I'll use it anyway. It might be right on, but my point will be proven, which is Amanda Nunes. She either hadn't been to 35 or she hadn't been to 45. I can't remember which division she grabbed first, Priya. My little daughter here is singing a song to me. Singing a song to me. So, I don't know how many times that matters. It's a real narrative. If you want to stop a guy, build that narrative, get it out there. It's much easier to get away with some of this matchmaking if nobody actually calls that out. If you don't have to deal with anything, including dealing with that, it's a lot easier to slip it in and get it done. But if you're one of the side that doesn't want that to get done, it's a good, effective strategy to come out and talk about how little the guy did. But again, I would ask you, does it matter? And I only ask you that because DraftKings did a mythical, if this fight were to happen, odds spread on Chimaev, who's done nothing to deserve a title shot up there, versus Chimaera. Chimaev was just shy of a 3-1 favorite. So does it matter? What do you have to do somewhere? I mean, I will ask you that concept. What do you have to do somewhere? Does that weigh into whether you get the opportunity? If you got the opportunity and you could succeed, it would seem as though whoever gave the idea for you to cut the line got it right. And that's what it would seem. And not doing anything at middleweight, I think that it's a strong enough argument. I believe Chimaev's only had 5 fights, and 2 were at 70, 2 were at middleweight. 1 was at a catchweight. I mean, I feel as though he's kind of split right down the middle. And I know I'm real close on that. That's off the top of my head. But I would bet a little bit, lunch maybe, that I'm right. I think he's 2 and 2 and 1. 2 at 70, 2 at middle, and 1 at catch. And I know if I'm wrong, it's 3, 2 and 1. So it would just seem to me, I don't know how far you could get with the claim that a guy hasn't done anything to deserve it. I don't know when in this sport you had to do something at that weight class. That's all I'm suggesting for you. Jon Jones has never done anything at heavyweight. Nothing. 0. Not even licensed. Never signed a bout agreement. He done nothing but talk about it. He should be fighting for the title next. Can we agree? Right? That's Jon Jones. He should be fighting for the title? Whatever division he wants to go. Can we agree? Yeah, we can agree. So there's times where that just doesn't apply. I see it in politics a lot, not making a political statement, but sharing with you that's something that I follow, and I do see that a lot. This person doesn't have the experience. Well, what experience is it that you're speaking of? I watched a guy who was never ever a politician, one campaign, take out a whole bunch of senators and governors. That was called the primary. Step right into the general. Took out a lifelong politician. Prior to him, I saw a one-term senator who did not vote. Voted that he was president, show up and become the president of the United States. So I don't know how many times it's true. I hear it a lot. I just don't know when I see it. And I always encourage people, and I'll go back to politics, I always encourage people, hey, be real careful with this guy has experience. Be real careful with that, because all that means is if you've been in politics and you have experience, all that means is you've already made your deals. What you're going to do is already bought and paid for, shooken on and agreed to. Be careful with that experience business. Be real careful with that. Carries over to fighting. Are you not seeing the examples? If you have a guy that fought at a certain weight class and everybody's studying, and then everybody's ready for him, everybody's playing for him, he does not have an element of surprise, which is a very helpful thing in the art of war. So Adesanya has literally done nothing at middleweight. Well, he's done equal. It's off the top of my head. I think he's 2, 2 and 1, and I know if I'm wrong, he's 3, 2 and 1. And the one catch weight, I think you could throw right on up to middleweight, which makes him 3 and 3. So if he did enough at 70, he did enough at 85. I'm just sharing for you. It's equal. It's equal numbers. I don't think that Chimaev's going to be fighting Pierre. I think that they had an opportunity. I think it was red hot. I think he'd have to have the house on fire. I think that Chimaev's going to go back to 70. I think he's going to fight Colby Covington. But we're having a little bit of a different conversation. We're having a little bit of a different conversation. Which is what if. And the house was on fire, by the way. House has been on fire twice in the last 2 weeks. It was on fire when we lost Prohaska. It was on fire when we had a draw. And there's ways that you can slip in at the right timing. There was a way. I don't think there's a path now for Chimaev versus Pierre. I don't think there's a discussion now of Chimaev versus Pierre. But I might be missing it if Coach Berriman has weighed on to throw water on that idea. I don't think Coach Berriman's wrong. I think it's a fair statement. He hasn't done anything to warrant a title shot at 185 pounds. I don't think I'm wrong to ask you, does it matter